Mother of 5, Celia Marsh, was on a shopping trip in December 2017 when she stopped for lunch and bought a vegan wrap labelled with dairy-free ingredients from Pret A Manger. She died less than 2 hours later.
Now, the reason she died was because Celia had an acute dairy allergy. She religiously avoided all dairy products, but she suffered a fatal allergic reaction. And that's because the flatbread contained coconut yogurt from an Australian brand Koyo, which was licensed for manufacture here in the UK to Planet Coconut, and the coroner at the inquest said Planet Coconut were in possession of documents which warned of the risk of cross-contamination. The vegan dairy-free flatbread was contaminated, but they failed to highlight this risk to Pret. Planet Coconut has since denied they were aware of the contamination, saying they didn't for 1 minute believe that the product could contain dairy.
Celia's family are now calling for stricter rules around food labelling and testing to prevent other tragic deaths. And we're joined now by 2 of Celia's daughters, Ashley and Sinead Grice, and lawyer Michelle Victor, who also represented the family of Natasha Edna Laperouse, who died after suffering a severe allergic reaction to a Pret baguette in 2016. Good to have you both with us. Now, just tell us, for your mum, it was a daily worry to make sure that she didn't ever eat anything which was contaminated with dairy products. It was something which was a very big deal in all of your lives.
Oh yeah, it's a massive part of our life. So she was so strict and religiously checking everything, because obviously it was so terrifying that this could ever happen. So as a family, it was a big part of our lives, like our home lives. It was just all the time, everything for us as a family. It was just so religious for her to make sure, double check, triple check, like she did that day when she purchased the wrap from Pret.
So she would have checked the vegan?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely. She would have triple checked and possibly even asked herself, because she was very religious.
So not just the name, like vegan, but also the ingredients?
Yeah, so the wrap itself had a list of ingredients on it, and everything on there she knew she could have. And then at the bottom it did say dairy-free, Planet Coconut yogurt alternative. So she knew, she thought that she was safe to eat that.
And Sinead, your mum, had had an allergic reaction previously, hadn't she?
Yeah, in May 2017.
Okay, so the same year even.
Yeah, a few months before, yeah.
And what happened what happened to her when she had that allergic reaction? She'd obviously eaten something she didn't realise contained dairy at that point.
Yeah, so she was at work, I believe, and she purchased a cereal marshmallow bars?
Yeah.
And she'd obviously eaten it, and she was at work at the time. And I think she, felt the tingling in her mouth. She'd gone downstairs at work, got some antihistamine or something. She managed to go back up to the room, and that's when it all started.
But on that occasion, as I understand it, she had to have 15 adrenaline shots.
Yeah. So this cereal bar that she had at work that day was actually, it said may contain on the packet, but she had previously had the same thing before, so.
And what you're highlighting is basically, it's like a Russian roulette, isn't it, when you go out to eat? I know a lot of people watching will think, well, why do people with severe allergies go to places where there is a risk? But the point about this occasion, when she went into Pret, was that it seemed to be very clearly labelled. This was vegan and it was dairy-free.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we now know that the product contained an ingredient that was contaminated with dairy, and that was because the factory in which it was manufactured was not allergen-free. And in fact, the factory had never been told to make the product at an allergen-free site.
Yeah.
What are you trying to change to make sure that what happened to Mum doesn't happen to others?
So there are quite a few things that we want to change. So the number one is testing. So we believe that there needs to be vigorous testing throughout the whole supply chain from one company to another. And then also the end product, to guarantee that these people that are purchasing and trusting this labelling that says dairy-free or free from, that it is what it said it is. And
so in this case, Planet Coconut or Pret, they would not have done a check, and they weren't obliged legally to do a check. They just took the word of the manufacturer of that particular component.
Yeah.
Michelle, you are a lawyer, you're the family lawyer. with Lee Day, but you've also been involved in the case a year earlier, Natasha and Laperouse. That's that right? And what seems remarkable is this is the same chain. I mean, Natasha died after she ate a baguette that she didn't realise contained sesame from Pret, and then a year later, we have another case, a mum of 5 children who dies when she eats a product that she doesn't realise is contaminated. The circumstances are very different, we know that. Pret didn't know that there was contamination in this product. What do you think needs to come out of these 2 tragedies? Because there have been changes, haven't there?
Indeed, there's been changes since Natasha passed away. Both Nadim and Tanya Edlan-Laperouse have called for changes in food labelling laws. And Natasha's law was introduced in October 2021, which now means that food such as that sold at Pret, pre-packed for direct sale, needs to have full ingredient labelling, including the 14 main allergens emboldened.
Although in this case, that wouldn't have prevented what happened to Celia, because there was full labelling.
Indeed, and this was prior to Natasha's law. But the most important thing is that any company that are having or holding themselves as being dairy-free or free from needs to adhere to the regulations. Now, the Food and Drink Federation made it very clear that if you are making a claim such as free from or dairy-free, it needs to be exactly that. The line in which it needs to be made has to be dairy-free. We know from the evidence at the inquest that the line that produced the HE1 stabiliser that was used to make the dairy-free yoghurt was not made on a dairy-free line. We also know that there should have been robust testing of the HG1, the dairy-free yoghurt, and unfortunately we understand from Bethany Eaton at Planet Coconut that there was annual testing, or that there was no evidence to actually support, adduced by her to support that.
Ashley, tell us about your mum, Celia.
Well, where do I start? Our mum was
The best in the world, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was an amazing mum, and she'd done a brilliant job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I think's dreadful? She got so far. You know, she was living with this chronic allergy, which could at any stage, I mean, it's like a sword of Damocles hanging over anybody with an allergy to food.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very hard to live your life, isn't it? Knowing that you're safe.
Yeah, and that's just not right. So even, it's just the fact that she trusted that it said it was dairy-free, and it wasn't dairy-free. And she was so careful, she couldn't have been any more careful.
Yeah.
And the fact that it resulted in the way it did, things need to change. It's just...
I agree. And I wonder, Michelle, whose responsibility is it now, right now, if I have a very serious allergy, like Celia, and I think, you know what, I'm not going to just make myself sandwiches every day. I want to enjoy my life. I want to go out with my family, and sometimes I want to go and buy something, which I think is entirely reasonable. Whose responsibility is it when they write the label that every single one of those ingredients is declared and everything has been tested so that I know it doesn't contain the dairy to which I'm allergic?
It is absolutely imperative that there is full transparency throughout the whole supply chain, and that if there is anything, even include a risk of contamination, that information is passed on down the food chain. What we do know is that the Planet Coconut had information in its possession to indicate that the HG1 and the yoghurt ultimately made was contaminated with milk. And had that information been passed on to Pret a Manger, they say they would never have used that yoghurt, and Celia may be here today.
It's terrible that you and your family have had to go through this and to lose your mum, and you're now having to live without her. But I think that your mum would be really proud of the two of you trying to make sure that you're going to change things for other people and just try and stop this happening again. It's very brave for you to come talk about this, but very, very important, and she'd be really proud of you.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. Planet Coconut disputes they were made aware of the potential contamination and say they didn't for 1 minute believe that the product could contain dairy. Look, I hope you get some good outcomes from what has been an absolutely traumatic and terrible situation for you. I feel, my heart breaks for your poor mum.